This is the TJ Hoisington Podcast. Unleash your greatness within.
So, to get back to your question, this isn't going to answer it all because as you can see, we could go really deep and really far with it. But to get back to your question, number one, you got to know what's most important to you. You got to know from an integrity standpoint what is most important to you. How do you keep goals on your mind and focused and keep going? First of all, you know what your top values are. You know what's most important to you. Then you design your goals and your life around those values.
You already know. My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. GreatnessWithin.com. TJ Hoisington. GreatnessWithin.com.
But here's the thing. A lot of people I found as I've trained over the years, a lot of people say certain things are of value, but their behavior on a consistent basis don't reflect that. You say, well, family's number one for me. But you spend extracurricular activity away from family, and your spouse would wish you were home a little bit more. So what do you really value? Let's say you value family, but you want to go increase in your education, but that requires, based on the college you wanted to go to drive 2.5 hours a day. Could there potentially be a conflict, yes or no? Yeah, because you value your family, but you're driving 2.5 hours away. So part of success is getting clear about what your values are. And there's a hierarchy of values. If I spent more time with you, we would find out, hey, what is your number one value over another value? We could go all through your life, through every category. We could figure out which ones are most important. And then what you try to do is you set your goals around those values. Here's where many people make a mistake. They set their goals first, and then they determine what their values are. Or they let their goals shift their values in areas that probably aren't good for them long term. Right? Because oftentimes human beings will seek for what will bring them satisfaction in the moment, but will not provide them the satisfaction long term. So number one, get clear. There are some goals that we want to move toward. Here's another distinction. But there are also goals that you want to, or values. There are values that we want to move toward, and there are also values that we want to move away from. What are some values, some things that we value moving away from? Any thoughts? Procrastination, you bet. That was the same one. Oh, so you move away from okay, so this is where it gets tricky right here. What's that? Because of the time it takes, right? Okay, great, for some. Now the question is, if we were to peek into your life, how much do you watch TV? And then you could argue, is it really a move away from value? It may be low on it could be a value, but it's low on the list, right? Okay, what's another thing that we move away from? Okay, you guys are bringing up, yeah, right, those are all wastes of time. How about anger? Or hate? Here's the interesting thing about things we value. How many of you value not reacting and snapping at someone? How many of you value that? Yeah, you think it's probably good that I don't do that, right? Now, by show of hands, how many of you have ever snapped at someone? Okay, why? You value not doing it, but you do it sometimes. Because the next part of it is state of mind. Sometimes in the moment, our state of mind can override some of our values. Now, to go really deep, if it is a true, concrete value in your system, no matter what state you are in, you will stay in character. You will stay true to that value. So, we have values. If we were to do 1 through 10, you have your top values, and then they go down from there. And you may underperform in the values down here. Hopefully you stay true to the values that are most important to you. And you've got to remind yourself of that, because we live in a world that has a lot of distractions. You're being pulled from one end to the other. So, to get back to your question, this isn't going to answer it all, because as you can see, we could go really deep and really far with it. But to get back to your question, number one, you got to know what's most important to you. You got to know from an integrity standpoint what is most important to you. How do you keep goals on your mind and focused and keep going? First of all, you know what your top values are. You know what's most important to you. Then you design your goals and your life around those values. And then step number 3 is you must regularly get around people and information that will keep you on course. An athlete shows up for practice every day. So why would you not show up for practice in terms of the people you spend time with, the content you put into your mind? Why would you not show up every day? Personal development cannot be an every once in a while. So my answer to you is, and how it's affected me, more specifically, is that the clearer I am about my goals, the more they're associated with what's most important to me, but the more I can see that image and believe in that image, that picture, whatever it is, that energy will draw me towards staying on track. But the reality is, we get distracted. And it's easy to get off goals and get sidetracked. So every day, your goal should be to reinvent yourself. I've got to constantly reinvent myself. Every high achiever that I associate with invents themselves, reinvents themselves, starts over. It's a new day. You get done with yesterday and you don't feel great about it, but you wake up this morning and say, I'm going to start all over again. A great way to start the morning is listening to some personal development. Pour some good thoughts and inspiration into your system. Maybe for some of you, it's listening to the right music that gets you where you need. How many of you have ever had a bad day? And then you're listening to the radio and your favorite song came on and all of a sudden it changed your whole state. Everything about you changed in that moment. Suspend it for a second, the frustrations of life. And by the way, they happen to all of us. We all get discouraged in moments. The key is who's willing to get discouraged and then continue moving forward. And so my last point would be, you've got to be looking at those goals on a regular basis and sit down and imagine yourself achieving that goal. What does it feel like? How will it impact my family? Listen, when I have written a few books now, when I write my books, it's a long process. It doesn't, other than If You Think You Can, they've all been long processes. When I wrote If You Think You Can, I was stuck in the back seat of my car and I wrote that book in 2 months and it was done. I read it sometimes and go back and review things in it because I forget some of that stuff. Just being real with you. And I think to myself, who wrote this book? This is a good book, and I don't mean that like this. I'm just saying there's so much content in there that I forget that I've got to go back and go, wow, I needed to hear that today. Right? So it doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat here.
Hey there. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, could you do me a favor? It would mean the world to me if you could write a simple review or give me a star rating. I would really, and I mean really, appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Now go out there and unleash your greatness within.
GreatnessWithin.com